I, Catherine Montgomery, being of the age of 18 years and upward, hereby apply for membership in this society by right of lineal descent in the following line from Isaac Batterson and his wife Amelia, who were my parents. My father was born in Fairfield Colony, Connecticut, June 10, 1791. I was born April 8, 1823. There were 8 of us children, but 4 died as babies before we came to Texas. We moved to Texas in 1833. My father founded a settlement now known as Galena Park, and we eventually moved to Harrisburg. My father became the first Justice of the Peace in Harrisburg County, which is now Harris County. He knew the Allen brothers and helped them complete the survey for the proposed city of Houston. Father died February 19, 1838, in the Republic of Texas. I married James Montgomery in 1840 at the home of my mother. I have lived here ever since. Catherine Montgomery, April 18, 1892.
To the Executive Committee of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, I, Sarah J. Ziegler, being of the age of 52 years, hereby apply for membership in this society by right of lineal descent in the following line from Mrs. DeLue Harris, who was born in Missouri on the 26th day of April, 1825. I was born in the city of Columbus, County of Colorado, State of Texas. I am the daughter of Mrs. DeLue Rose Harris and Ira Harris, and granddaughter of Dr. Pleasant Rose and Margaret Rose, his wife, and he, the said Dr. Pleasant F. Rose, is the ancestor who assisted in establishing Texas independence or who served the Republic of Texas. An account of the hardships and services of my grandfather, Dr. Pleasant Rose, has been published in the Texas Historical Quarterly. It was written by my mother, DeLue Rose Harris, and given to Mrs. Adele B. Luskin, General Historian of the Daughters of the DRT. She had it published in the Quarterly of the Texas State Historical Association in 1900-1901 as the Reminiscences of DeLue Rose Harris. Sarah J. Ziegler, April 14, 1905.
On the 12th of March, 1836, came the news of the fall of the Alamo. A courier brought a dispatch from General Houston for the people to leave. Colonel Travis and the men were killed, and the Texas Army was retreating. Sister and I wept all day about Colonel Travis. Thus began the horrors of the Runaway scrape. We left home with only 1 yoke of oxen. Mother and I were walking, she with an infant in her arms. Brother drove the oxen, and my 2 little sisters rode in the sleigh. Father was helping all the families along the way. Hardships began at the Trinity River. The river was rising, and there was a struggle to see who should cross first. Measles, sore eyes, whooping cough, and every other disease that man, woman, or child is heir to broke out among us. The horrors of crossing the Trinity are beyond my power to describe. One of my little sisters was very sick, and the ferryman said that sick children should cross first. When our party got to the boat, the water broke over the banks above where we were and ran around us. We were several hours surrounded by water. My sick little sister was in convulsions. When we landed, Father took her on his horse while we followed behind. The night was very dark. We camped without fire or anything to eat. It was a night of terror. My little sister that had been sick died and was buried in the cemetery at Liberty.
We were compelled to abandon our home when the Mexicans came in. we left with the others. The water was high and Buffalo Bayou was almost impassable at that time. Our father reassured us. He was an honest, hard-working man. He was in charge of the women and children in the Runaway. He was friends with Sam Houston.
On April 21, 1836, the most significant battle of the Western Hemisphere was fought on the plains of San Jacinto, where the San Jacinto River and Buffalo Bayou converge. The victory by the Texian Army, led by General Sam Houston, paved the way for the Republic of Texas to become an independent country. The area along Buffalo Bayou where the battle took place had many thick oak groves separated by marshes. This type of terrain was familiar to the Texans but quite alien to the Mexican soldiers. General Houston's army, comprising approximately 900 men, reached the area mid-morning on April 20th. Generalissimo Santa Anna's 700-man force arrived a few hours later. The main body of the Texian army was concealed in the timber along the bayou so as to deny Santa Anna the knowledge of its true strength. Colonel James Neal commanded the twin sisters and from a forward position exchanged fire with the lone Mexican cannon of superior caliber. Colonel Sidney Sherman then advanced with the cavalry in an attempt to capture the disabled Mexican cannon, but was driven back by the Mexican dragoons. Around 5 p.m., the cannonade and the cavalry ended and the armies retired for the evening. Throughout the night, the Mexican troops worked to fortify their camp by creating breastworks. On April 21, 1836, at approximately 9 a.m., General Coss arrived with around 540 reinforcements who had marched all night, bringing the Mexican forces to around 1,200 to 1,300 men. As the morning wore on, with no Texian attack, the Mexican officers lowered their guard and the men rested. General Houston then sent Deaf Smith to destroy Fences Bridge. At noon, General Houston calls his first council of war. The men prepared for battle. Knives and hatchets were sharpened, muskets cleaned, and powder horns filled. In the battle report, General Houston describes how he arrayed the Texian forces in preparation for the battle.
Colonel Edward Burleson was assigned the center. The 2nd Regiment, under the command of Colonel Sidney Sherman, formed the left wing of the Army. The artillery, under the special command of Colonel George W. Hockley, Inspector General, was placed on the right of the 1st Regiment, and 4 companies, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Henry Millard, sustained the artillery on the right, and our cavalry, 61 in number, and commanded by Colonel Marylebou B. Lamar, placed on our extreme right, composed our line.
General Houston mounts Saracen, and drawing his saber, the infantry slowly, silently moves towards the Mexican camp through the tall grass. The flag is unfurled with the motto, Ubi libertas habitat ibe nostra patria est. Where liberty lives, there is our homeland. Orders were issued, the fife and drum began playing, Will you come to the bower? And the twin sisters, now commanded by Hockley, were fired at 4:30 p.m., thus beginning the battle. After a single volley, the Texians broke ranks and swarmed over the Mexican army with the battle cry, Remember the Alamo, remember La Bahia, to engage in hand-to-hand combat. As no sentries had been posted, the Mexican soldiers were taken by surprise and overwhelmed. In approximately 18 minutes, the tide of the battle was clearly in favor of the Texian army. This 18-minute battle that changed the course of history in the Western Hemisphere.
We had been at Liberty 3 weeks when a rider came waving his hat. He said, "Turn back. The Texas Army has whipped the Mexican Army, and the Mexican Army are prisoners. No danger, no danger. Turn back." General Santa Anna was later captured. The good news was cheering indeed. I was on the battlefield of San Jacinto the 26th of April, 1836. I was 11 years old. We stayed on the battlefield several hours. The dead Mexicans were lying around in every direction. We had to pass among the dead Mexicans, and Father pulled one out of the road so we could get by without driving over the body. We were glad to leave the battlefield. It was a gruesome sight. We camped that night and could hear the wolves howl and bark as they devoured the dead. We arrived to find our home destroyed.
When we returned to what was left of our home, we discovered that our father and others had taken up the floorboards of our cabin and used them to make rafts on which to cross Sam Houston's army to San Jacinto.
The freedom of Texas from Mexico won on this battleground led to annexation in 1845 and to the Mexican War, resulting in the United States acquiring approximately 1/3 of the present-day area. Almost 1 million square miles of territory changed sovereignty. As a direct result of this victory at San Jacinto, the United States would fulfill its manifest destiny of stretching prosperity and development from the Atlantic to the Pacific. In what historians call one of the most one-sided victories in history, over 650 Mexican soldiers were killed and over 300 captured. 9 Texians died, with 30 others, including General Houston, were wounded. The San Jacinto Monument now stands on the battleground, a reminder to all of us of our ancestors who fought for the freedoms we enjoy today. God bless Texas.